Why do I do what I do? Because I absolutely love it. I mean, knowing that I can write stories and shape narratives that make a positive impact and difference in the world at such a large scale is an incredibly fulfilling feeling.
Hey, Lubna, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And today we talk about many things. From traditional PR and then influencer marketing, social media, what is happening. Then, of course, the beauty industry, there has been seen so much, right? Traction through social media in the years. So quite excited to see your, all your knowledge and tips and tricks when it comes to that. But first of all, why don't you tell us a bit more? As many people listening, they might already know that you use a framework called MAP, that is basically mission, achievements, and purpose. To know a bit more about yourself as a person and as a professional, right? So mission, right? What do you want to achieve? The achievements that you already had, so any notable milestone, either in your personal life or career, and then the purpose. So why you do what you do.
I think my goal really is to create this long-lasting impact through disruption. If I say work specifically, I've always enjoyed looking at and doing things a bit differently. And so I'm always on this search of ways I can create a little organized chaos, I like to call it, that really leaves a mark. And that's really my own personal stamp. And if I try to connect that really to my achievements, more on a professional standpoint, I'm going to say, I've been really fortunate to be in the PR and marketing business for, I think, almost 13 years now. I've worked in small and big agencies across multiple countries and with a very diverse brand portfolio like, Diesel, Swarovski, Turner International, and now Estée Lauder. And that has given me so many amazing wins, but I think there are three that I am so proud of. So the first one, in 2017, I was working at an agency and one of my clients was the National Basketball Association, so the NBA. The brief was to create more resonance for basketball in a country like India. It's such a beautiful read. It's got from young all-girls team in one part of India to monks playing basketball in their free time. It's really a stellar book, and it was a limited edition collectible, and it's probably one of my most prized material possessions because it has my name in the credits, and it makes me so happy because it was my idea from the get-go. Another one was, I think, right after in 2019, when I first joined Estée Lauder in India. I worked on a social media campaign for our company's primary leading corporate social responsibility initiative, which is breast cancer. And I roped in a lot of top celebrities and breast cancer survivors with the goal to use their influence and powerful emotional stories to drive very high impact awareness and do some fundraising for the cause. It was the most gratifying and heartwarming experience, knowing that I was playing like a little part in making a difference in the world. And cut to now, maybe, which is the last one, and really falls within recently my current role as consumer marketing director for the brand across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. I built what I like to call a humanized marketing model that focuses on consumer centricity and emotional connection, which in turn led to the execution, I think, of some highly successful campaigns that I'm so proud of, and I'm sure we can speak to later. Why do I do what I do? Because I absolutely love it. I mean, knowing that I can write stories and shape narratives that make a positive impact and difference in the world at such a large scale is an incredibly fulfilling feeling. Maybe some of the examples I shared are professional, but they really reflect things that I believe in, where my values are rooted, things that I want to do in life.
Fantastic. And congratulations on the achievements. They looks like, really, now I'm curious to watch some of the work because they, how passionate you are. But before I get into influencers and everything, right, you were more on the traditional PR side, is that correct? So changing that and going to like social media and influencer marketing, was it like natural for you? Were there any challenges, any main differences that you noticed during that process of shifting?
Sure. I'm going to have to say it was quite natural and organic, mainly because that was the direction at the time that the world was moving into. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there were a fair bit of challenges. So as a millennial, I lived through, the internet explosion, as did most of us,
Yeah.
So technology really got more integrated into our lives, and social media became this shiny new toy. But what that did was we moved from a world of very limited to very limitless access. And that takes some adjustment, because you're forced to unlearn and relearn everything that you know. And that's always really tough. That said, I think it was the best time to be in PR because the world literally became your stage and you could rewrite all the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays very well into my disruptive work philosophy. So I actually genuinely I enjoyed it back then because I think traditional PR also instills a lot of patience and discipline in you. But I love the dynamism and the volatility and the challenges and the positive challenges that really come with this new era of social media and working with influencers and content creators. And of course, there are definitely some differences, which is your second question, if there are any differences between traditional and influencers. For sure, I think with traditional PR campaigns, you're really talking about, print, TV, radio, out of home. All of these mediums, while back then were super effective, they do have a limited audience and impact. They have most of the times long planning and lead times, and it's mostly one-way communication. Whereas if we talk about an influencer marketing campaign, whether it's word of mouth or social media, you get speed to market, you get scalable impact all over the world, you get a two-way interaction between creators and their audiences, you get that authenticity, that authentic voice that lends credibility. And I think most critically, you get that personalized human touch which most of us respond to. I always like to say, good communication is all about comprehension. And as a brand, if my consumer is getting information from a magazine or a TV spot, I can't be sure if it's being received in the way that I intend it to be received, right? But if she's getting it from an influencer's video, who she follows and she listens to, who she believes is unbiased, with whom she can have some kind of interpersonal relationship and relatability, then the probability of me as a brand landing my message and convincing her to use my products is so much higher. I like to call it the magic of interfluence, interaction plus influence. That really is what you get when you work with creators. And that's not to completely dismiss traditional marketing, because I think traditional marketing has also stepped up with the times. It's evolved and adapted into the current world context. For example, you still have out of home, but now you have digital out of home, which is integrated with AI, and that's really having quite a moment right now. So I think that there's still a place for both in the world, but of course we have moved a lot more towards the influencer marketing, social media, content creator space.
Well, I agree. You need a 360 approach, right? You cannot just focus on one, because different demographics, different marketing personas, right? Some people are watching more videos, others are still they're looking at billboards. So I totally get that. And also when you say about the from unilateral to bilateral communication, because on TV, you just send a message, but you cannot really see what is the real time feedback, right? While if you read comments, what I still have it is that reading comments on a social media, profile, it's basically having a focus group of people that are not even paid, but they're telling you basically, right, what they like about the product, what they like about the message, what they don't like, what they would love to see, right? Many times I've seen brands looking at the comments and making changes in their product or brand values because of what people were asking, right? I don't know if you have do you have any example or something that you noticed in the past?
You're absolutely right. As in that you have real-time access to feedback from the people who are actually using your product. I think you have the opportunity to reframe what you're communicating to them. I can't say that personally I've had a brand or a client that I've worked with that has changed a product. What has definitely changed has definitely been the modes of messaging. I think the way we've approached communicating to people has been so greatly influenced by the fact that we now have this bilateral communication where it's basically like human to human conversation almost. And that's what you do when you're having interpersonal communication, right? we're bouncing off each other. We're taking off from what we're saying to each other. And I think it's not very different for brands as well.
Hello! Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here to do just that. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth, from influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements to managing shipping and logistics. We have it all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to DTC brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into actionable conversions. You can find us at the influencermarketingfactory.com or just search the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google.
No, okay, exactly. And so we have the focus group, the real time, and it's also something else that I would say that digital marketing, has been powerful for, is also how you can tailor messages depending on who you are, where you are, right? So I was wondering, when it comes to Estée Lauder and social media, what are some of the main differences between doing a campaign, that is global versus something that is more regional?
With global social campaigns at Estée Lauder, we really focus on driving and elevating brand equity at scale. And this is done through high quality content and influencer content, branded assets. And I think they're really tasked with delivering one single cohesive message at scale to the entire world. But something that you and I both know, right? There's never a one-size-fits-all approach when you're talking to something that's as diverse and dynamic as the entire world. So that's really where we come in to complement the global social strategy at a regional level. So a regionalized social campaign, essentially, our role is we are tailoring the message to reflect more locally relevant consumer insights. And those are then executed with local nuances. So to your point, to what is the kind of prep that goes in? One is, of course, knowing the insights that are relevant to you for that moment, ensuring that the idea that's been put out is the same, and it's still laddering back up to the larger message, but in different languages. So there's a translation time that is actually required in a lot of campaigns, making sure that the content is being delivered by diverse and local creators who are adept to lead that conversation, who are key opinion leaders in that space, and are people who are looked up to within that particular geography. And more importantly, also being sure that you're integrating into culturally relevant conversations. Now, at a global level, you can't be doing that for every single geography around you, right? And that's really why we have regions across the brand that really drill down into these insights of something that's specific to our region, and then continue to go even deeper. We have teams who are based by country that within the country are deepening the insights further and further, tailoring the message even more specific into their audiences. And I think that's really, it's not so much about only the differences, but it's like an entire pyramid strategy that one sort of feeds into the other, but overarchingly, we're all communicating that one big singular message in our own way with our own nuances.
Makes complete sense, right? Even whenever I just think about Europe, Germany is different than France, that is different than Spain, that is different from Italy, right? So I absolutely can understand why you have to know exactly what is happening in terms of history, politics, society, right? Language, lost in translation sometimes between when also there is a translation, right? It
Yes,
could be
yes.
lost, right? If there is maybe a joke,
Yeah.
In wars or anything like that, right? Sometimes it can be easily lost there. But on this, so if they are different, though, there might be a sort of common thing here that could be, and it's specifically when it comes to Estée Lauder, EMA, right? It's gonna be about that. You told me that you prefer working on campaigns that have a emotional hook, right? Instead of just being purely informational, right? So first of all, why is that? And why now, I guess, even more than before, it's getting so much important to have this type of approach?
The reason I do think that is because I think there's so much information out there for the world to consume that you have to make sure that you're doing enough to stand out. In today's digital world, the most valuable social currency is essentially attention. As an individual, when I think of what gets my attention, it's things that leave a mark with me, that appeal to me at a very emotional, subconscious level. Like a life moment that made me laugh or cry, something that made me feel something. And I think it's this basic human psychology that also just applies to marketing. And that was really the basis of this humanized go-to-market model that I spoke about earlier, that I really wanted to create for Estée Lauder within the scope of EMEA. It's humanized marketing because we're keeping people and the things that they really care about essentially at the core of everything that we do. If I have to go into the mechanics of it, right? So considering data is everything, it's king. It informs creativity. So we start by really unlocking those key insights that I spoke to just before, that we are obviously in a position to speak to. We have the authority to address and cater to, all the while obviously staying in tune with all of the social conversations that are going to allow us to be relevant, to be current. And then these insights really, I think, form the basis of our emotional hook, as you put it, that becomes the big idea of the campaign, really. That's what we're going to use to resonate across all the media touchpoints. And that's the big idea that has to be conveyed to the consumer, and that's what's going to leave a mark with them. But then you also need the idea to be articulated through some very authentic storytelling. And really, who better to do that than the best storytellers of our time, content creators? So they form really a very, very key part of our marketing strategy. And specifically, I want to say, pinpoint TikTok, because we need those stories to live on and grow. And platforms like TikTok not only drive like large-scale visibility, but there's virality, and then there's also on-media value. All of that really helps in driving a lot of the business growth trajectories. And finally, when we round this off and we look at it from a wider lens of like 360 omni-channel experience, it's the same messaging that we're translating to our website, in stores, through our beauty advisors, on counters, CRM, eventing. And that's really, I think, the winning recipe that really led to the execution of some of our incredible campaigns that we've done recently, which was My Shade, My Story last year, Every Night, Your Night earlier this year. So yeah, that's pretty much the essence of this model.
Is there any like statistics or any insights that you can share with us? Something that, either you're very passionate about or something that you were not expecting, just to go a bit more. So first of all, if you can tell, to the audience what are each of these campaigns so they can have an idea, and then go a bit more.
Yeah. So let me start with My Shade, My Story. This is so special because it was the first ever regionally led TikTok campaign within the framework of this new go-to-market model that was created. The campaign essentially was built on the insight that everyone is more than what you see, than what meets the eye. And if given the chance, they would want the world to know their story that's not just skin deep. So since we created this platform for our best-selling foundation, Double Wear Stay in Place, we wanted to make a direct correlation between the diverse shade range of foundation and then the shades of your personality or your stories. And that's really how My Shade, My Story was born. Our goal really was to empower people to own their narrative. So we created a simple framework for TikTok videos. The script went, you see shade, and then they would say the shade of their foundation, the Double Wear foundation. I see, and then they would add something that describes their story that they'd like people to know about them or know them for. We built a solid TikTok first strategy through content creator partnerships and again, paid media, which is so important to really boost our best performing content. This was supported by a really strong offline eventing program as well, in order to scale that awareness and new consumer recruitment. So 15 countries within the region went live with this campaign. We had 98 videos. We closed at 209 million views on TikTok after 8 weeks of the campaign. The conversations around this, it was not just about the volume, right? But I think the quality of conversation that took place around it left us all in awe. People were so personally invested in telling their stories, in how appreciative they were that there was a conversation like this happening where they could speak to the misinterpretations of themselves and clarify them, saying, this is what I'm known for. I'm not just a pretty face, or I'm not just a face. I'm so much more, and this is what's there to me. We actually grew 2 times the foundation market in Italy, Spain, and France, and 4 times in Switzerland. Probably the biggest success we've seen for a campaign in EMEA ever. It was our first tryst with something that we believed was going to change and revolutionize Estée Lauder in EMEA. But we didn't want to also be one-hit wonders. We knew we had to prove this time and time again to see this model is actually working. So once My Shade, My Story was successful, we went on to take on the task to create a campaign to recruit, again, new consumers we're talking about here, for our number one serum, Advanced Night Repair, that really reflects this nighttime skincare authority that we've had for decades right now. People have very vibrant night lives, lives in general, but night lives as well, due to which they don't get a lot of sleep. Like, we don't get a lot of sleep as millennials, as Gen Z. I think this resonates with everybody. Most of us are not getting a lot of sleep, but we also don't want to wake up in the morning looking like we've not had a lot of sleep. I want to be able to wake up looking fresh, vibrant, ready to just take on the next day. So again, simple insight, we unlocked it. We connected a product that is known for its high performance to address this look, this not being tired, making your skin more hydrated, looking more vibrant, looking more radiant. And we added the emotional storytelling hook to it. And that was really where every night, your night came, alive. We created 5 TikTok branded films this time with a very diverse representation of creators. We used those videos for upper funnel. So the purpose was to mainly drive awareness. We boosted them with paid media, and we tiered them and supplemented them with local creator content across all of our different countries. Again, it worked clearly. So we drove these amazing TikTok KPIs. We got 74 videos. We got 141 million views. And the results, this was astonishing. In some of our key markets, we 10x'd retail sales growth. And we gained a 3-point ranking on earned media value within EMEA in the skincare category during this campaign. So again, this was just one of those wins for us where we were like, okay, now we know that this is not something just worked once for us. This is proof of concept on our marketing strategy. And we saw such a marked shift in our business growth trajectory across makeup and skincare 2 times in a row. So after that, there was really no looking back. We felt like we wrote a little bit of history for Estée Lauder.
Oh, this is fantastic. You also, during that, you were mentioning both Gen Z and millennials. So
Yes.
I'm curious, just like, and is there, of course, there are many differences for, not only in demographic aspects, but, many other aspects as well. But in your opinion, when it comes to these campaigns, how do you think about differentiate the storytelling, right, when it comes to Gen Z versus millennials? Is there anything specific, or it is just, some main categories they want to usually split in? Like, how do you approach that?
It's important to recognize that any good marketing campaign is a result or an answer to an insight that you've derived, right? And you generally may or may not always find insights that are extremely resonant for 2 demographics that are obviously very, very diverse age groups. So while we have obviously millennials that are categorized as younger millennials and older millennials, Gen Z is known to be probably the most diverse demographic that there is. And within them also, there are so many little aspects that are different. So I think one of the main important things is that because they're in 2 very different phases of life, and then within them, there are several different nuances as well, I think that would make the most innate difference. A lot of your beliefs, your values, your lifestyle choices, they're all just a byproduct of where you are in life at that moment. And knowing this is the crux of storytelling, really, right? So that I think is more of a qualitative analysis of the differences. But if we were to make it a bit more technical, millennials obviously, like us, transitioned into this internet explosion era. So there was a pre and a post for us. And so I think we're more likely to divide our times across broader range of platforms. Whereas Gen Zers, they're digital natives. They were born with phones in their hands. So they spend more time and on fewer platforms. They're a lot more targeted in the kind of things that resonate with them. Like, we're open to multi-format content as millennials. We'll watch things, but video is okay, but then text is good as well. We want to read. But Gen Z quite evidently favors video short form content, whereas we can oscillate between long form, and we're okay with video and we're okay with text. So there are some basic differences as well. Not to say that there's so many similarities as well. So I think you do have to, as you go lower into the marketing funnel, you can have one big insight that resonates with a lot of people, And so that's where you can categorize your Gen Z and millennials together. But I think as you go into your consideration, conversion, advocacy, all of the lower phases of the funnel, that's where you start applying a bit of the nuances that speak specifically to those life moments or those life milestones that will most strongly resonate with them at that moment and at that time.
Anything else that you want to add before we wrap our episode today? Is there anything that I didn't ask you, or something that you're passionate about, future of social media, anything else that you want to add in the last minute that we have together?
It's a lot of multiple topics, like, I don't know, suddenly investing in the stock market has suddenly become a really interesting topic for me right now. So I'm watching a lot of podcasts, videos, and then listening to a lot of podcasts like Girls That Invest, and watching videos from some creators like Erica Kulberg. So I think a lot of my personal life and my professional life are obviously intertwined when you're doing something like influencer marketing and you're really exposed to the real world. But though I'm super excited. Thank you so much that, we had this chat today. I know it was a little overdue, but I'm so happy to have been here. And I think we had some amazing conversations, and I just hope that they can be useful for people who listen to them.
I'm sure about that. Absolutely. Lubna, this was great. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
This is The Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory. I'll see you next week.